Hello, we are
Hello.
live. Hello, Facebook. Guess where I am? Well, I'm at home, but my guest is in a beautiful location. It is Nathan Roddam.
The secret location in Madonna.
A secret. Okay. So we're about to start the recording of the White Owl podcast. So if you want to join us while we wait for some more people, you might want to grab a cup of tea or I don't know, whatever you're drinking on this beautiful Sunday morning. And while we wait, do you want to give us a quick little look around your beautiful scenic spot? Or will that cut out the signal?
No, it shouldn't.
Nathan
So
was
I'm
showing
just
me before.
chilling by a beautiful little creek that I discovered about 5 years ago while walking the dog. So me and the boys have spent the last 5 years sort of just managing a little bit of the land around it and just made a few campsites. So this is where we come to basically chill and reground ourselves and get back in touch with nature and yeah, just generally just forget about a lot of the crap that's going on in the world, to be honest. So, and I couldn't
Perfect.
actually think of a much better place to do it. So, yeah, I spend as much time out here as possible. So,
So this is your version of, my dad used to have the men's shed, but this is like the men's natural Zen garden.
yeah, as I say, it's a beautiful spot, and there's been a lot of time and energy put in by the boys
Mm.
out here as well. And it was actually quite nice today that Lockie wanted to come out. So,
Mm.
I actually got kicked out of the other campsite that I spoke to you on yesterday, and he
Ah,
said, "No, I want to work on that one today." So I was more than happy to let him. So I've I've gone further down the creek to another just dipping hole that I've got here. So
gorgeous.
it's a absolutely beautiful spot to come in winter and yeah, jump in and reset.
In winter, he said, and we're going to talk to Nathan about cold water dipping and all the benefits of that soon. But what's the
There's
temperature there
definitely plenty.
today? Do you reckon it's
The water temp last time I checked it here the other week was about 14, so it's not too bad. The ocean, well, the bay that we swim in Madonna at the moment is about 18, so that's about as warm as it's ever going to get in Tassie. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So
And
Nathan's
during
down
winter,
south, a bit colder.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, we're about half an hour north of Port Arthur, so in between Dunalley and Eaglehawk Neck, a little place called Madonna. So blink and you'll miss it, but it's a beautiful, beautiful place to live.
Mm. Yeah, it looks just with the light coming through the trees, it looks so serene and peaceful. Look at that. Oh,
Mm.
okay. Well, we might kick off, and if people join us along the way, they can. Otherwise, let me just tell you a little bit about, well, I'm Mel Craven, and this is another recording of the White Owl podcast, which I felt called to do in 2025 because it is the year to rise together. And the owl kind of symbolizes to me shining a light on truth and authenticity in the darkness that sometimes we feel as human beings on this planet we're lurking around in. And so whenever I connect with a person whose heart is open and connected, I'm just drawn to them to tell their story. And I guess we have like a flavor of sharing truths on many different levels, but there's definitely a spiritual as well as a mental and physical and soul truth element. Ooh, I'm getting so excited. I'm flapping my headphones around. Yeah. And today I have Nathan Roddam, who, am I saying your surname properly? Because I just call you Nathan.
Uh, Pronounce Roddam, so but we
Roddam,
get
not Roddam.
Rodman,
Roddam.
Rodman, like we get a whole mixture. There's not many of us, so we're a special breed.
Okay, Nathan Rodman.
Roddam, double D, Roddam.
I know, I was just teasing. Okay, so I'm just checking that I've set my poster public so everyone can see it. Good. Yes. So I met you at Uluru in person in August. Was it August last year?
That would have been August last year, and what an incredible trip that was, thanks to the beautiful Jane who organised it all and gave us
Yes,
an amazing 7 days together. So,
it was truly powerful being on country there. And what I really loved is that it was a mixed group. And, sometimes, because Jane has predominantly worked with drumming groups, she helped
yeah,
people create beautiful drums, and that's how I first met Jane. And then on this trip to Uluru, we had men come along, which I found so refreshing. And I think that's when I was struck by the need to have women and women's circles open their hearts more to men and listen to their stories. Because for a long time, for reasons, there's been a focus on women empowering women. And I think 2025, as I was chatting to Nathan earlier about, is a time to men still have their space, women still have their space, but it's so important to connect together with those open hearts to improve our relationships, not just with each other, but with the earth. Yeah. And to help each other rise. Yeah.
and that's something I definitely took away from that trip we did together in Uluru, because I was actually unaware before we went to Uluru that there's actually three rocks out there, and obviously Katajuka was the men's gathering area, and then you've got Uluru, which was the women's and men's and the children's, get together place or place of
Yeah.
gathering, and
Yeah.
then Mount Connor was the women's
Yeah.
area. So yeah, I learnt a lot from that trip, and it was
Mm,
quite healing for myself.
mm.
Um, and yeah, definitely a, a very powerful place.
Wasn't it? Yeah. And that just
Yeah,
demonstrates beautifully the need for sacred spaces for men, women, and families together. Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
Mm, yeah. So I I've been getting nudges from spirit, intuition, whatever you want to call it. Interview Nathan, interview Nathan. So here we are.
here we are.
Here we
Here
are.
we
And
are.
I'm so happy that you agreed to do this because I know you're not someone that goes around speaking in public. So thank you so much for being
It's
vulnerable and sharing your heart today. Mm.
It's actually one of my biggest fears. It's something I have gotten better at over the years. But yes, when I must admit, when you first reached out and said, "Do you want to come on my podcast?" the initial came into it all, and yeah, if I can be completely honest, I wasn't in a very good headspace back in last November and December, which is when you first touched base. So.
Mm.
Happy to report I'm actually in a much better place for 2025. And as you've stated, that it's going to be a big year, and it just feels that, like, energy wise. And,
Mm.
of course, being the year of the snake, which I've seen several of already
Really? Today?
this year. No,
This
not
year?
today, luckily, but yeah, just this year. So,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, for myself personally, it's been the best start to a year that I've ever had, to be honest. So, and there was
Wow.
no massive, New Year's resolution and all that. There was just a few good intentions set at the end of last year in a end of gathering circle we had at Helen Rowley's place down in Penner in the Gur,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of just followed on from that. So. Yeah,
Mm.
again, I'm sitting here completely out of my comfort zone, but as we shared yesterday, if you stay in your comfort zone, you don't continue to grow and evolve. So, and that's definitely something I've learned in the last 18 months,
Yeah.
and found that the more I get out of that comfort zone, the more I actually do learn, grow, and evolve. So, but it's still scary.
Of course. Of course. Yeah. Life is all about change, and change is not comfortable for anybody.
Yeah,
We're creatures of
yeah,
habit. We like to crawl under our rocks and stay there. But then most of
yeah.
us get that push to get out of the rock. And here we are in your beautiful forest and
My
ready.
happy place, I
Your
call it.
happy
My happy
place.
place.
Yes. And I'd love, in this episode, we're going to talk about your happy place, which have happy places you've discovered, which have helped you move out of the kind of struggles of addiction and would you say depression or anxiety?
Uh, 100% depression, anxiety, which I mean, I've been pretty much addicted to alcohol since my early 20s,
Mm-hmm.
and other substances before that, I was early as 16. So, um, it's only been in the recent, probably last 18 months, I've delved deeply into why and felt what I needed to feel so I can move forward as a better person. But in no way am I cured or have I got my life completely together. It's a daily adventure and one I actually look forward to now each
Mm,
day, which hasn't always been the case in the past. So, um, I mean, over the last 4 years, I've only started to learn about self-love and self-care and, all that basic stuff that we need to do, you know, on a daily basis to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be. So it's all been a massive learning curve,
mm,
um, but one that's really taken that positive spin in the last, 18 months. So, and like I've met some incredibly beautiful souls, yourself included. And I've done that simply by getting out of my comfort zone and, leaving the comfort of home and traveling a bit and doing retreats. Like my first retreat last year was actually a Wim Hof retreat back in uh, June or July, I think that was.
that was your
And then, of
first
course,
retreat.
that's the first retreat I'd ever done. And I
Mm,
nearly didn't do that one because the self doubt and the fear came in. But I'm blessed that I've got a beautiful wife that sees my potential on the days that I don't, and she actually really encouraged me to go along, and I'm really thankful for her that that she did push me that couple of
mm,
weeks before, and I did agree to go, and yeah, I haven't regretted anything since. It was only a few weeks later we did that trip to Uluru, and again that was just another trip of a lifetime, and just another trip of healing on that next level and that deeper
mm.
level. As well, from my personal experience, you think you've dealt with things and then it comes back around and you delve into it on a deeper
Oh
level,
yeah.
which is something I've struggled with in the past. But I now accept the fact that we need to go deeper. Like,
Mm,
we need to, if it keeps coming back to us, then there's something that wasn't quite dealt with the time before, and that's okay.
mm. Oh
Where
gosh,
in the
so
past, I've sort
so
of wanted
true.
to just, I've dealt with it, it's gone, I'm not going to feel that way again. But yeah, sadly, that's not the case. But yeah, it's all about perspective at the end of the day, for me anyway, on
Mm.
my journey. So
Oh,
yeah,
thanks for sharing that. There's so many nuggets of gold. Let's go back to, so how was it going on your first retreat? Because for a lot of people, it's a big step to leave your home and to go on a Wim Hof retreat. So just tell me a little bit about, yeah, how the retreat was for you. Mm,
in 2 words, life changing.
mm,
Um, Obviously, as I just shared, there was that self doubt and the fear that
mm,
came in of, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone and going on a retreat with, I think there was 12 or 13 of us all up. There was the two instructors, a photographer, and then, 10 students.
mm,
Um, so just, yeah, getting out of that comfort zone and meeting new people, which is, something that I have always struggled with. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, everybody that was on the retreat was an absolutely beautiful person. There
mm.
was actually only two males, and the other male was really glad that I did come along because
I
the
bet.
the last sort of weekend retreat he'd done, he was the only male. So,
Wow. So
but
that
with
was
that
the
said,
Wim
it was
Hof
actually
retreat. Only two males.
yeah,
I imagine it would be,
yeah.
for some reason, very male centric. That's just my
No,
bias. Mm,
there was actually meant to be another bloke come, but his flight got delayed, unfortunately. So there would have been three, but it was the
mm,
majority of females. The instructors are both female. And I think for myself personally, that actually made the whole experience a little bit easier because I've always sort of resonated more with the feminine energy. And yeah, I mean, the other guy, Rod, that was there actually shared, I'm glad that it's, just a couple of blokes because he was actually fearful of the masculinity side of it, the dark ego
Mm,
kicking into it and go, oh,
yeah.
you can do 2 minutes, oh, I can do 3 minutes, and
Mm,
there was none of that, and it was really, really great. So, um, yeah, again, as I shared earlier, it was simply life changing, and I've actually just recently returned from Queensland, back in it was the end of January, start of February, and that was doing my second Wim Hof retreat, which was pretty much a 3 day um, retreat. And again, that was just again epic on a whole another level and quite healing,
mm,
all at the same time. And that was actually um, more mixed group, so I think there was actually more males on that one. And again, there was none of that, this dark masculinity of, the ego kicking in. It was just general guys and beautiful women coming together and learning more about the Wim Hof method
mm,
and the benefits of it, like ice bars and the breathing. And it was actually really good for myself to go there, having already been to one, and
mm.
then going to the second one and actually meeting people that, there was some people there that had actually only done one ice bath prior to this
Yeah.
retreat.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
by the end of it, they walked away doing either a 5 minute ice bath or a 10 minute ice bath. And like, I was
10
absolutely
minutes.
in awe of those people because it's
Mm,
something that I've done. I first delved into it back in 2019, thereabouts. And let me tell you, it doesn't matter whether you've done it for 4 years or 2 weeks,
hmm.
jumping into an ice bath is still as exhilarating as the first time you'll ever try it. So,
I like how you
yeah,
say
to see these people,
exhilarating. I could think of other descriptive words. Shocking.
I probably I
Terrifying.
probably use other words at times, but yeah, it is.
Mm,
It's just
but
exhilarating. Like,
exhilarating. Yeah. So how does it tell us the benefits of it and what happens for you when you ice bath?
yeah, well, there's lots of benefits, and I won't delve into the scientific side of it because
Mm,
I mean, people can easily Google Wim Hof, and I mean, I
hmm.
first read his book, and Tammy actually brought me that for a Christmas present, which was lovely, and
Mm,
that just allowed me to touch more on the scientific side of it. But if someone like yourself asks me, why do you do ice baths?
hmm.
It's for me, it's a great reset. First thing in the morning. Well, not first thing. I sort of get up, I do a breath work session and some stretching, and then I'll jump in the ice bath. So for someone that's suffered, with depression and anxiety for most of my life,
Mm.
it was a massive help in dealing with anxiety. I'm just watching for things to fall, falling out of trees. Joys of being in nature.
Drop bears.
Yeah, no, it's more those things that are going to hurt you.
That
But
would be
yeah, it's just a
exciting. No, I don't wish that.
well, it'd liven up the podcast. See me diving into the creek. But
Um,
yeah,
mm,
it's just a reset. Like
mhm.
I've woken up in the past like extremely anxious and worried about things that are completely out of my control.
Yeah.
And I've just jumped in the ice bath, and a simple 2 minutes in the ice bath
Mm,
resets. As Wim puts it, why you're in the ice, and you're basically just in survival mode. You're not thinking of, how am I going to pay the mortgage this week, or how am I going to get to work, when my car's blown up. Like, none of that. That all just goes out the window. And you get out and you just feel alive. And that's why I use the
mm,
word exhilarating,
yeah.
because that's why I do it. Like, I can get in there feeling like absolute crap, and I can get out 2 minutes later feeling, on top of the world. So, and let me tell you, there's not many mornings I get up and go, woohoo, I get to jump in an ice bath today. It's more, yep, I'm going to do it because I know that I'll feel better when I get out of it. And it's the same with our daily swim now. that we do down in Madonna in the bay off the jetty, which was actually started by a beautiful Dutch couple. And yeah, I sort of, when we started, it was kind of like, why didn't I do this back when I was, 20? I
Yeah.
waited till I was like in my 40s. And
Mm,
it was a couple from overseas that had this suggestion, and it's been one of the best things I've ever done in life. So again, touching on the addiction side of it, it's like I've realized that I'll always have an addictive personality. It's just I've realized now that I need to swap bad addictions for good addictions. So, you know,
mm,
my
powerful.
addictions nowadays are jumping in fresh water and ice bars and breath work. So, and of course, there's other ones. There's bushwalking and just getting in touch with nature. I try to come out here as often as possible, even if it's for half an hour after work.
Mm,
And it's an awesome reset. Like I can come out here feeling completely overwhelmed with work and life and everything that's going on, and again things that are out of my control, but they still get to us at the end of the day.
yeah.
Um, and I can sit out here and watch the fish in the creek for half an hour and light a fire and sit by the
Mm,
fire and just look at the flame for an hour, and I can go home feeling refreshed and return a much better person for my family also. So,
I
yeah, the
love that.
benefits just, are amazing. So, and for something so simple, and what I've come to realize is it's free. I mean, the retreats you pay for, but what you learn from these retreats and, the little habits you pick up from people that you meet like yourself can completely change your life for the better. So
Mm,
here we are.
wow. So it's when you're talking, I'm just thinking it's all about being present rather than stuck in all those stories about the past or the future
Mm,
or the worries. And like jumping into cold water, you can't help but be present, right? Because immediately you're
mm.
just focused on your breathing and kind of survival. Like,
Try not to die.
yeah, you can't think of anything else when you're trying not to die. That's right.
That's it.
I've only ever done like real cold ice dipping once when I went from a hot sauna into that place that and the
Oh, up
floating
at
hot
Derby, the
sauna at
floating sauna.
Derby.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then jumping into that ice cold water and really, yeah, all you can think of is keep breathing, and then trying to calm yourself down. Or that's how I felt. And I noticed there was a defibrillator nearby in case anyone had a heart attack.
Just in
So
case.
it's not for the faint-hearted. But afterwards, the amazing high, I felt a real high.
Mm.
Like, I'm not going to talk about the science in any detail because I don't have expert knowledge on that, but just basically, I know that when you jump into cold water, the blood's all directed away from extremities, isn't it, into internal organs to help you survive. And then
Mm.
after, so your veins and everything die, like constricts. And then afterwards, there's this renewed blood flow and oxygen. And I guess there's all the hormones and endorphins that float around as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
You get that feeling of feeling alive
Yeah.
without for myself, and I can only speak for myself. It's the getting through the day without the overthinking, like it annihilates all that. And of course, that can creep back in during the day at work or,
Yeah.
if you have a stressful day. So, I mean, some days I actually jump in the afternoon as well for another reset. So, um, again, it's something that's free and something that's, you know, just feels so good. That's my
Mm.
simple answer for why do you do ice baths? Because I'm a better person for it and it
Yeah.
makes me feel alive and good.
Yes. What a great thing to be addicted to. I'd say you're addicted
Yes.
to nature, to your breath, to being fully present, to being
Mm.
alive. And yeah. So,
I
mm,
think a good way I can put it this year is like it's an awesome way to fill my cup.
mm,
And as we know, when your cup's full, the
Mm,
people around you benefit. So, I mean, I've
yeah.
had a lot of years where my cup's been running on empty and I've
Mm,
mistakenly put other things as priorities rather than, my own mental health and
mm,
my own self-care. Like, I remember reading a book on anxiety about self-care and self-love, and one of my friends also mentioned it to me, and it's like, it kind of feels selfish, like to take
mm,
time out for yourself. Like, um, yeah, but as I've learned and many others have learned, it's the complete opposite because, yeah, you've got to look after yourself before you look after anybody else. And even saying that at the moment, like it still feels selfish, but as I say, the ones that are around you benefit when you do that. So, um,
they do.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've actually shared to a few people this year, and the Wim Hof instructors. Like my newest addiction is retreats because I just get so much out of them.
Hmm.
And again, meeting the new people and you know being around like-minded people. Um, yeah, there's no better feeling really.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Because for a lot of people, like I think you've mastered this well, but a lot of people, they go to retreats, they feel the open heartedness, the connection, the presence, and then they come back into their day to day life and they struggle to integrate it or to keep it going. So
Yeah.
you've really integrated that into your life. So it's like you dip in and get the retreat, but then you come back and you're still practicing. So, what would you say to people that struggle to do that?
I was just thinking as you were saying that, like, I think what helped me was I did it for a number of years by myself.
Mm,
Um, and the guy that was actually on the Wim Hof retreat last year back in Tassie shared a similar thing. Like he left the retreat and then he struggled to get back into the breath work and the cold water immersion because he didn't have that group energy.
mm, mm-hmm,
Now, I actually personally didn't feel that after the Tasmanian retreat, but I've actually felt it a lot more this year because it was a bigger group up in Noosa. They had it up in the hinterlands at a place called Kin,
mm-hmm,
and the breathwork sessions there as a group was, it was incredible energy, and I actually absorbed it on a whole new level this time round. So I think that's why I've come back home, and I mean I've still kept up my daily routine because I know for myself that that's what I need to do to say, stay mentally strong and
mm,
just, you know, be a better person, basically. So I know what works for me now, and I'm quite happy doing that. And I guess that's one thing of having that addictive personality that I am disciplined. Um, so I just know that if I do it daily, my day
mm,
is going to be
mm.
better. So
Yep. So a little bit of
um,
discipline and routine. So just
yeah,
choose,
routine for
yeah.
me. Like, I mean, I get up quite early, and as I shared earlier, I pretty much start with 20 minutes of stretching. And then I'll do anywhere from half an hour to an hour of breath work, that obviously, depending on what time I've got before I've got to go to work.
Mm,
And then once I've done the breath work, I'll jump in the ice bath, and yeah, it's back into the normal what they call the normal routine of life, breakfast and work and all that
mm.
other stuff. So
What time
I
do you
guess to
start
go
your
back,
day?
it can range from 5 to
Mm,
5:30. The days I don't work are a bit more relaxed. I try and throw in a sauna before the ice bars on the days I don't work. But
mm.
obviously that's sort of limited to time on the days I do work. I just don't have enough time unless I get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Um,
Bit early.
yeah, 5 o'clock's fine. 5:30. 5:30 is good.
Mm,
Um, So yeah, I guess to go back to your original question of what advice do I have for people that, leave the retreats and then struggle to integrate it into their life is it's just that consistency. Like,
mm,
and I think from what I've seen of other people that have left the retreats and not picked it up as much. They use that. Um, well, it's the lack of time. Like, I don't want to use the word excuse, but
Mm-hmm.
people think that I don't have time.
Yep.
Where for me personally, my mindset is if I don't make time for these basic things I do every day, I'm gonna struggle, you know, a lot more than if I take 2 hours out of my morning to do this stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, and
It's
I
putting
mean,
yourself first, isn't it? And I like how you said originally you thought it selfish to put yourself first.
mm,
And I
yeah,
think that's a common thought, especially um, among, like, if I reflect on fathers and husbands and partners that feel like they're always having to put everyone first and provide,
mm,
to then put it back and build, fill your own cup is not something that comes easily, or it comes with feelings of that's selfish and not right.
and
Mm.
and letting your family down, like,
Mm.
I mean, I've been in a position where I've worked 7 days a week, and I used to stay out the bush, so there was less travel time. So, back then I was stuck in. I won't go too much into the political side of it, but what society calls the norm, like, you got to work 5 days a week. You've got to do this, you've got to do that. And it's like, so my routine was get up, go to work, leave the family at home. Um, and then I'd come home and like I'd come home absolutely exhausted.
Mm.
And to be honest, I wasn't a nice person to be around. So although we call it selfish to do that self-love and self-care, again, I mean, there's still days I struggle with it. It's like, oh, I should be doing this or I should be doing that. But as I mean, you're probably aware, the more present you are, what I've found with all of this and, my daily routine, the more present I can be, the more productive I actually am. Because
Mm.
I'm not wasting all that energy on, overthinking and trying to control things that are out of my control.
Yeah.
Which is what I used to spend a lot of time doing. Like,
Mm.
I used to come home from work and try and forget about it by just drinking the day away. And yeah, now I look back on it, I was like, what a waste of, you know,
Mm.
20, 25 years that was. But that's my journey. Like, I don't regret the path I've taken and, everything I've done and gone through. Like, it's
Mm.
like I was actually, after our chat yesterday, it was quite funny because I was in the kitchen doing the dishes and we've got a mirror in there. And that old saying, if you can look yourself in the mirror and be proud of yourself, then you're winning at life. And I wasn't only just looking in the mirror and being proud of myself. I was dancing around like an absolute lunatic, and I saw my son walk in behind me, and he sort of glanced at me. He was like, "What are you on, Dad?" And that was the thing. I was on life, like just life.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's kind of funny for me to look back over my life and realize that all this money and time and energy I wasted on, drugs and alcohol, I was actually looking for a high that I've now found naturally. And
Mm.
that's really ironic because, yeah, it's like I could have found this at any point in my life.
Yeah, but you've
So,
found it now at the perfect time. And wow, I'm just like covered in goosebumps. Oh, and someone just commented, you're a natural leader, Nathan. So
well,
you've got all
thank
of
you.
this, you went through all of this so that other people could relate and you could help them
Mm,
on their pathway. Perhaps, just an idea. And how beautiful that you are now high on life. I love that. That you looked into the mirror and you weren't just proud of yourself, you were celebrating who you
mm,
are. And that's all of you, your whole journey.
yeah,
Incredible. And I'm sure there were painful, dark places in your journey. So to be where you are now, amazing.
100%.
Mm.
And just to touch on the anxiety and the depression side of it, I mean, depression's something I've suffered since I was 15, and I remember going to the doctor and getting antidepressants when I was about 16. Not that I wanted to. It was suggested by the doctor and my mother, and I remember taking them and just I felt numb. And I think I took them for about a month, and I ended up saying to my mother, I'm not taking these. Like, I just don't feel human.
Mm,
So I guess what I've been trying to find ever since I was 16 is what I now feel now.
yeah.
And I mean, I've done the whole psychiatrist thing. And again, nothing against them. I'm sure certain people need to take medication to deal with what they're dealing with. But I was always wanting to find out why I felt the way I felt and what I could do naturally to deal with it and overcome those feelings. And I know when I was in the psychiatrist office, she's like, well, you can take, I think serotonin was what she put me on, it did actually help me through that really bad time because when I first gave up alcohol for 3 years, everyone said, you've just got to stop drinking and everything will be fine. And unfortunately, it wasn't. I gave up drinking and I suffered even worse anxiety. And I was kind of like, well, what do I do now? Like everyone's sort of told me, just stop drinking and everything will be fine. And when it wasn't, and when I went to the psychiatrist and she wanted to put me on, the serotonin, which was fine, but then she wanted to put me on sleeping tablets and she wanted to put me on this. And I was like, I don't want to take all these pills. Like I still want to deal with what's going on and work out a natural way to get through it.
Yeah.
So yeah, long story short, I've finally found what works for me, and this is my journey. I'm not suggesting, hey, everybody go and jump in an ice bath and you'll be fine, because this has been a long process for me, and it has been up and down. But I know the fact that I've delved into the Wim Hof side of it, and I now spend time in nature. I make time to spend in nature. Are the things I think you said in the introduction to our podcast are the anchors I now use to get through life on a daily basis.
Mm,
So I actually haven't actually told many people this. I've been processing it over the last week. My family know I told my brother the other day, but I was actually diagnosed last Monday with low to moderate PTSD. And I've never been so relieved to get a diagnosis because from the research I've done, and I'm still researching a lot of it, I've listened to an audio book, but it now makes sense of all the depression and the anxiety and, OCD tendency that I've been going through. And I had no idea why. Like, I can actually
mm,
sit here now and go, oh, it actually all makes sense. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
so,
Isn't
and
it?
again,
It's a relief to have that diagnosis sometimes. Mm, mm,
it is because, I mean, in the past, it's, when the psychiatrist diagnosed me with anxiety, it's like, yeah, but why am I so anxious?
mm,
Like, how do I go about, not
mm.
so much curing it, but working through what was making me anxious? So,
Yeah,
and I think,
trauma. It's at the heart of so
yeah.
many people's anxiety and depression. Mm,
Oh, and look, even when the psychologist, sorry, on Monday was saying, you've got low to moderate PTSD, I'm sitting there going, but I always thought that was for war veterans and first
mm,
responders. Like I didn't realise that what I guess, general people, like people just living their lives. Like
mm,
I've seen some stuff and I've gone through some stuff I wish I never had to, but again, it's made me who I am today, and I guess that's why I was so relieved when I got that diagnosis that
mm.
it all kind of makes sense. Like I've only been a first responder to 4 incidents, but one of those was losing my dad in my arms in the middle of the bush,
Okay. Yeah.
from a massive heart attack. So,
Mm,
and yeah, now looking back, having that diagnosis, it's like
mm,
when I first got told on Monday, there was, all these emotions coming in of, I was feeling resentful and angry, and I was like, why didn't the psychiatrist pick it up? Why did she just tell me I had generalized anxiety?
mm.
So it's been a big week, and I've spent a lot of time in ice bars and a lot of time in nature. But again, I'm sitting here smiling. I'm sitting here feeling fulfilled,
Mm.
and most of all, I'm sitting here feeling proud because people can give you tools to better yourself. The old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink it.
Mm, that's true.
And I guess
Ah,
that's where I say, like, this is my story. Like, I've found what works for me. I've finally found peace in life, and it's something that I never thought that I would find.
mm,
Um, and it feels really good. And
yeah.
going back to our retreat at Uluru, like, I remember I come up with a saying at the end of it. So I'm glad I put a swearing warning on the start of this podcast, and I'm sure everyone will forgive me. But
They
on
will.
that trip, I remember sharing in our closing circle that that week was probably the first time in my whole life I've had a week where I just let life flow and I didn't try to control anything. And the saying that I walked away with from that retreat was fuck control, feel flow. And it's something that I continue to use until this day and will probably
Perfect.
use until the day I die. So,
Yeah, that
because,
is great. Mm-hmm.
well,
I'm
it's
gonna say
something I
it,
always
say it
struggled with,
again.
like, why don't you say it, Mel? Like,
Because
we can
I'm
both
I'm
say it.
a missionary's daughter and I still have like this innate panic
Okay,
to
well,
swear.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighbourhood called Rokeby, and I picked up some pretty bad habits. So I can honestly say I can openly say, fuck control and feel flow. Like I
I love
spent so
that.
much of my life trying to control things that were completely out of my control, and it's almost a relief when you realise you don't have to control, or you've got very little control over life.
Yes. Yep. That is one of the most freeing, liberating epiphanies to have, isn't it? That you can't control everything. And look, how old were you when your dad died in your arms? Like, I just want to go back to that because that's massive and would have definitely
Back
had
in
a big impact.
back Back in 2009, so I think he just had his 15th year anniversary last December, and that was
Mm,
when I say November, December, like
yeah.
I've made sense now of why, because I mean, without going too much into the story of it, I was triggered at a car rally by a simple radio call,
Mm-hmm.
which took me back to another first responding event. I won't go into detail,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I kind of came home and like I felt I just went into this downward spiral
Mm,
and I wasn't sure why and I wasn't sure how to get out of it. And then obviously Dad's anniversary is the 3rd of December. So, long story short, I pretty much fell to pieces on that day. I tried to get up and make it, I was renovating the house and
mm,
just wanted it to be another normal day. And I remember not finishing the day, but in the afternoon, my wife held me and that's all I actually needed at that time in life. I didn't need advice. I didn't need anything but to be held. And for a man to say, I just needed to be held and let it out. And I remember Tam saying to me, she said, I can't do anything but hold you and you've got to feel it. And she was
mm,
100% right. And I didn't want to feel it. Like I wanted to drink. I wanted to do this. I wanted to numb it. I just wanted to get out of, that feeling. And she was
mm,
right. I just had to sit there and feel it. And I did. And I cried probably, the rest of the night.
mm.
And looking back now, it's like I healed that day on a completely deeper level as we've discussed. I thought I'd dealt with it. Each year his anniversary obviously triggers a lot of stuff and to start with, the first 4 or 5 years it was just a day getting wasted because I didn't want to feel what I felt. I didn't want to relive those
Mm.
visions and all the crap that comes along with it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, now I just want it to be a day of celebration, like a day of remembrance, and to be able to feel those emotions when they do arise and accept that they're actually okay. And as a man, it's okay just to sit in the fetal position and cry. If that's what you need to do, do it.
Totally. Feel your
And I
emotions.
actually,
Mm,
yeah, I actually had a very, I don't even know what the right word was. It was something that I remember for the rest of my life. I was at a gathering back in January and I actually held a guy and I knew at the time he was sort of struggling a bit and he kind of said, I just need to cry, Nato. I said, well, just let it out. I said, just
mm,
let it out, man. if you need to cry, cry. And I just held this, grown man, and he literally cried in my arms, and it was one of the most beautiful things that I'll ever remember from life. Like, just as my wife was for me, just being there while someone was being so vulnerable and just being able to hold that space for him. So,
Yeah, that's powerful. Being able to hold space, especially for males who are taught in our culture to hold it in, that
mm,
you need to be tough, that it's a sign of weakness to show
yeah,
emotion. So that is
what a load of
incredibly
shit that is.
powerful. Load
What
of
a load
shit.
of shit that is.
Total load of shit.
I can generally say, or honestly say, I've never felt, stronger than I do now sitting here in this chair. And I've cried more in the last 18 months than I've ever cried. And actually, it's just jogged another memory from the Wim Hof retreat we did in Noosa. Like, I shared pretty much a lot of what I've shared to you today. Like, it's my story. And, um, the instructors actually said to me at the end of the retreat, like, I think from you being or showing up so authentically allowed other people to show up just as authentically.
Mm,
And I shared that story about holding that, the grown man, a mate, in my arms and just having him cry. And the last breathwork session we did, it was just as beautiful because we're all breathing away and two of the guys just burst out crying.
mm.
And again, to me, that was proof that these retreats are healing. Like these guys had obviously been holding stuff in for who knows how long,
Years,
and just
probably.
the
Mm,
simple art of breathing, like, can release so much energy and trauma and tension and all the rest of it. Like,
hmm.
it, I guess you haven't asked the question, but if someone asked me why I do breath work every
Yeah.
morning, it's to release energy, to move unwanted energy, tension,
Hmm.
stress.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, breath
something so
work.
simple as breathing. Breathing, isn't it
We
ironic?
take it
All you
for
got to do is
granted.
breathe.
Yeah, breath work.
Yeah, that.
I have studied breath work and teach some breath work as part of yoga practice. And I remember learning that we don't always breathe into the full capacity of our lungs. And it's when we do that we can move the energy of grief and
Mm,
sadness that's often held
yeah.
in the lungs. So, yeah, obviously that's a big part of it, of getting in touch with your emotions, is through the breath and
Mm.
releasing them. Yeah. Mm,
And breathing deep, like, because as Wim explains, like, so many people go through their day, they feeling anxious and overwhelmed. It's that really short, quick breath, like,
mhm,
where, breath work is about actually, fully in, like, breathe in as much as you can and then breathe it out and then breathe it back in as much as you can.
mm.
So I remember when I first started the Wim Hof breathing, I was getting, again, effects from that that were more intense than, some of the drugs I've taken in my past. So, um, again, it's funny, isn't it? Something we look for in something that's man-made or you've got to pay for is actually free.
Free and
Yeah.
natural. You don't need to use the chemical version of it. We can make our
Yeah.
own chemicals and absorb them from the trees and create the same processes that drugs give
Mm.
us. We can create the same effects just
Yeah.
naturally. Mm.
Yeah. There's that saying, like, no better feeling than breathing fresh air. Like, and it's one of the reasons I love coming out, just here. Um, because it's, or smelling that fresh air after a fresh rain. To me, there's nothing more beautiful than breathing in air when you've just had that light rain and, you just get that whole other experience of something so simple in life. So,
Yes. Yeah, well, the Japanese know it. They actually prescribe Shrinyin Yoku, like forest bathing, to
yeah,
people that come to them with depression. They prescribe going out into the forest. Yeah, we should do more of that. in Australia. Mm.
100%, 100%.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I can just share this, there was a time earlier last year before we did the retreat, and again, I was completely overwhelmed with life. And I remember just walking out to Waterfall Bay, so down at Eagle Hawk Neck, and it's only, a 20-minute bushwalk. And it's something I'd learnt from one of the many teachings that I've got, or I got from joining a men's group earlier last year. And it was basically just sit in nature and focus on something for 5 minutes. And yeah, this day I was like, I couldn't physically do anything else. I couldn't think straight. So I went for a walk and I found a waterfall, and I sat in front of a waterfall, and I obviously sat there longer than 5 minutes because I needed longer than 5 minutes, but it felt like 5 minutes. It ended up being about 15 minutes.
Mm.
And I know, the saying they say, it was like the weight of the world lifted.
Yep.
And that's the feeling I got simply by sitting in front of this waterfall and watching water, trickle down this waterfall.
Mm.
Um, and I was actually blessed to take my son out there a few months later when he was struggling, and teach him the same thing, and just generally say to him, like, if you're ever overwhelmed with life, boy, and you feel like you can't go on, you go into nature, you find a creek, you find a waterfall, you find something, and just sit there and breathe. And I
Mm.
guarantee you that you'll feel better when you walk back out of that bush.
Oh, how blessed is your son? I have three sons, and I hope that they learn that as well. I know we're trying to teach them the same thing, and going out bush and walking is a big part of my partner's self care. And
Yeah.
like you said, it doesn't have to be hours, sometimes just
No.
taking, and if you don't have access to a waterfall, just choosing something natural in your immediate environment, like a
Go and
tree,
find a lizard.
a
Go and find a
lizard.
lizard to watch, or a spider. Like,
Yeah.
that's something that I've really noticed at work. Now being, what I consider a lot more present in life is, I
Mm.
can see a lizard crawling up a log and go, oh wow, that's incredible, or a butterfly land beside you, or
Mm.
just, we're blessed down here with the wedge-tailed eagles. Like, just to
Mm-hmm.
to to take 30 seconds out of your workday and look up, and what you might see um, is
Yeah.
something worth watching, and something that will make your day a lot better. So,
Yeah. Bring you back into that present and that connection with something greater than what's in your head, whether that be
yeah,
your spiritual beliefs or just nature or a sense of being present. Yeah.
yeah.
Powerful.
Mm.
Oh, we need to do a second podcast because you've got so many great pearls, insights,
Life,
stories.
got a lifelong story to share, Mel. And it feels really nice sitting here, like I shared yesterday when we had our first sort of pre chat, I suppose. Like, I was a lot more unsettled yesterday. So again, thank you for, touching base yesterday and
Mm.
doing what we called the test run out the bush, because I didn't know whether I could come out here and do it. The
Yeah.
whole idea of choosing this spot was that I didn't have phone reception, and it was my outlet away from technology. So just to put it out there, I've actually had to borrow my son's phone and set up Zoom and all the rest of it to make this happen.
Oh,
So, but
I
I know
appreciate it.
that,
Mm.
well, I know I can be myself out here. There's no
Mm.
external, distractions, as we know, that can
Mm-hmm.
get in the way of life. So again, it's just where
Yeah.
I come to reset and
Wow.
to
Thank you.
refocus. So, and to let
Mhm.
go.
To let
That's a
go.
big step. Let
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Mm,
And thank you for bringing us into your, I'd call it a sacred space. Yeah.
pretty
Mm.
much. Yeah.
Mm. So if people would like to follow up, talk to you, are you available for anybody to contact, or can you?
I guess I am now.
It's up to you, but I just feel that people might want to talk to you.
And look, it's something that I've become a lot more comfortable with getting such incredible feedback from that latest Wim Hof retreat. And again, it showed me that actually all I need to do in life is be myself and show up authentically, and with that rawness.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that if you own everything in your past, then no one can use it against you in the future. So it's basically owning your own shit, like,
Own it.
and acknowledging that, hey, I wasn't always a nice person. I wasn't always,
Mm.
this at peace and, in touch with myself and my emotions. So yeah,
Being
sure
your
thing.
human. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're only here in a body for a short time, aren't we? We're here for a much longer journey, I think. So
Mm. So you were saying people could what reach out to you on Facebook or
yeah,
you can
probably
pop.
Facebook's the
Mm.
easiest. The easiest. I mean, I've got Instagram, but I very rarely check it. I'm hopeless with emails. So if you were just to private message me on
Yeah.
Facebook, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, I'll pop the link to your Facebook Messenger below. So if anyone wants to carry on the conversation with you, or if you want to type a question in and then you can see it and I can forward it to you.
oh, yep,
Yeah,
yep, cool.
yeah. They might
Yeah,
want to know.
technology is not my strong point.
Well, you're the first person that zoomed from out in nature, so I think it's you do have some good skills there, even if they came via your son.
Well, lucky, I've got some sons that are more technology based than I am. So thank you
Oh,
to them.
it's this new generation. They're incredible. They are in touch with the environment as well as with AI. So, yeah, it's exciting. The future's in their hands. It's great.
Yeah, that's it. It's about teaching the young
Mm,
ones, teaching the young ones. So yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, I am just, yeah, I feel really honored that you shared your story and opened your heart and were your authentic self, which I knew you would be because that's how I know you.
Well, I feel honoured that you first reached out and then reached out again and probably again, Mel, because had you sort of pushed it last November, December, and I know you're not the sort of person that would have, I probably would have said no because of just that simple fear and that fact of not being in a good headspace. So
Mm.
I think as we discussed yesterday, everything's aligned and here we are. And yeah, again,
Mhm.
2025 is going to be the best year yet. So,
That's it.
but I
Perfect.
guess I just want to say to anyone that is out there and struggling, like, my life changed when I let go of the fact that I don't have to do life alone. Like, it's actually okay to reach out and just ask for help. And
Mm.
it, it may be as simple as, hey, I'm not doing okay. Can you
Mm.
just listen to what I need to talk or need to discuss or need to let out? Like,
Yeah.
because it's a trap that I fell into because of that, upbringing of, oh, you're a man, like you've just got to hold it all together and you don't talk about your emotions and, you just get on with life. Like,
Mm.
I tried that. I tried that for years and I'm almost not here because of that reason. Um, so yeah, stuff that crap. Like, reach out and say, hey, even if it's, just a mate, hey, I'm not doing so well this week.
Mm.
Let's go out the bush, sit out by the creek. Like,
Yeah.
one thing I've learned, and I'm still sort of struggling with because unfortunately Australia has, this, and I almost feel hypocritical sitting here saying it, like this alcohol culture that, if you catch up with a mate, you've got to have a beer.
Mm.
Like, I'm kind of leaning towards how can I bring my mates out here now and have these discussions without that. And I completely understand some guys can't. Like, I'm happy to sit out here while someone has a beer and discuss, their problems. That's cool too.
Mm.
But I guess what I want to make more aware is it's actually okay to sit around and talk. And again, if you have to cry, cry, let it out. Like, don't be ashamed of it. Like, because I did. I when I first started feeling emotions and showing emotions, it was like, oh, they're right. I'm just
Mm.
a big softy and I'm weak and I shouldn't be feeling like this. But again, as I shared earlier, I sit here now and I'm actually proud of who I am and my story and what I've been through. And I I can generally say that I've never felt so strong in all my life. And I
Mm.
know I'm going to cry this year, and that's okay.
Oh, yes. Yes. All I can say to that is yes, 100%. And if just one man or one person struggling hears you say it's okay to feel and let it out, because as a mental health social worker, I spend a lot of time with men who have PTSD, and it's
Mm,
so caught up in their bodies and coming out in addictive or self-harming ways. And I think your work on this earth, even just this podcast, is going to help people to just let go, which is the key to healing. To let go, to not hold on so tight.
well,
Hmm.
I guess one word I haven't mentioned, or two words I haven't mentioned that I've recently, again with the men's work that I've done, or the men's groups I've been to, and this self-healing journey of myself is the word self-sabotage. I didn't understand what that was until like 2 years ago, and it was like I was my own worst self-sabotager.
Yeah.
So again, it's like delving into that side of it and owning it. And I guess from my personal experience is owning the fact that you actually have toxic traits, but that's okay. It's up to you to change those toxic traits or to acknowledge them and
Mm.
then, do what you can to work on them. So, because no one's perfect. Like, as I said earlier, I'm not going to sit here and say every day is rosy and
Mm.
every day's fine and I've got, everything in my life's in order. It's not. It's just with the processes I've put in place and the tools I now use each day, my life is far better than what it used to be. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You've got the awareness, you've accepted how you are and how you are some days, and then you've got the tools to move yourself back into that kind of feeling of being proud of
mm.
yourself, being alive, being present.
which is
Yeah.
which I guess is one thing I used to struggle with. Like I'd get up and if something went wrong, I'd have that mentality that I'm having a bad day and the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
day is going to be bad. And like with all the work that I've done, and like this has been over several years, not just 1 year. Like I
Mm.
now realise, like yesterday, I shared as we jumped on today. Like I was off yesterday. I was just feeling really agitated, and I didn't know why.
Mm.
Obviously, I've had a lot to process this week, and just that simple 20-minute phone call with you yesterday at the bush, like changed my whole day. And by last night, I was, dancing like an idiot, having my son watch me in the kitchen. But that's the one thing I've learned. Just because, the
Mm.
first hour or 2 hours of your day is crap doesn't mean, by 7 o'clock or even half an hour later, your day can't be
Mm.
going good again. It might be a simple thing like stop, do 30 minutes of breath work,
Yep.
reset. I know one of the women that was on the retreat, she shared since because she has like integrated a lot of it into her life and she's seeing the benefits and she's been asking questions like, do you guys do breath work when you're stressed? It's like, well, from my perspective, hell yes. If I've had a crap day at work, it's probably
Mm-hmm.
one of the first things I'll do when I come home now,
Yeah.
rather than crack a bottle of Jack Daniels open and because that'll fix everything.
Yeah. I think I've got your title of your book. It's like From Self-Sabotage to Self-Love or something like that. Or
I'll
what was
practice
it? I'll
reading for
say it. It was fuck control, let life flow. Do I say it right? No.
almost. I'm proud that you said that word. It's
Took a
four
lot, and I
words.
messed it
It's
up.
Yeah, well, you didn't. You've
Mm.
given your version, and that's okay. Like
Okay, you say it
we're all
again.
different,
Oh,
so it's just four words, and it's fuck control, feel flow.
oh,
So
okay. There you
yeah,
go. Well, that might be a more catchy title of a book. Maybe then the tagline could be, from self-sabotage to self-love. But men are more likely to be attracted to fuck control, feel flow.
that's it. Spot on.
Yeah.
And now I've just realised that I can't share this podcast to my grandmother because she'll probably slap me over
Oh,
the head with a newspaper for saying that word. But that's okay.
my
Like I'm an
mother will
individual
be
too.
not, my mother won't be happy either. So we'll just keep it on the lowdown.
Yeah, we'll try anyway.
Okay. Well, I always end my podcast with impersonations of owls. It's called the White Owl Podcast. So, give me your best impersonation.
Me,
Yeah, it's like,
I
whoop,
need.
whoop.
I
I
should have
don't
brought
know.
Pem for that.
Just a bit of fun. Yeah, see, that's good. And then now, didn't you say then you're just going to run off and pan over to the river as you jump in?
I could
I'm
try that, but
joking. You don't have
then,
to.
then you're going to be left in the lurch with me, stuck
Yeah.
in the creek. So that could be a whole nother episode.
Yeah,
Practice what you
okay.
preach.
That's it. Next podcast will be coming live from the ice bath, and we look forward to it. Okay.
It'll be 3 minutes long because otherwise I get really cold.
A short podcast. Yeah, 10
Yeah.
minutes maximum. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I'm going to end it here. And thank you once again. It's been truly inspiring and just so refreshing to chat honestly and openly. And I know that your words will strike a chord with whoever's meant to hear it. Yeah.
It's been my pleasure, Mel, and again, thank you for allowing me to step out of my comfort zone. As I've shared at the start, like public speaking is actually still one of my biggest fears. But again, it's releasing that fear and just showing up authentically and speaking from the heart, because that's all we've really got to do. So,
Yeah.
and the
That's
ones that
it.
want to listen will listen.
Thank you so much. I know your friends will call you NATO. So thank you, NATO.
Thank
And
you
many, many
from the
blessings.
bottom of my heart.
Okay, have a
Well,
beautiful day. I'm going to stop our live stream. Bye, Facebook.
you too. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.